Welcome, everyone. This is Abby Gooch at our Intuition to Income Global Summit. And today I have a very dear friend of mine and also a professional colleague named Seymour. And Seymour is somebody who has played a very influential role in my life. He actually is the reason that I have my certification school. And he actually has a school of his own in California. And he is talking to us from Europe, in Prague. So he is a man of mystery. There's many talents he was actually sharing with me right before we got on air. So quite curious to hear what he has to share. And he is extremely intuitive. He's developed a process called Zen-Touch, which is body work and using intuition and really just working with the feminine energy. So without any further ado, Seymour, if you can please introduce yourself to our guests, and let's get started.
Okay, hi folks, I'm Seymour. Welcome aboard. Ask away, Abby. I'm all yours.
All right, so Seymour, what role has intuition played in your life?
You know, knowing that I was doing this interview, I started thinking about intuition in my life and realized that it's probably my biggest influence since as far as I can remember way back. So intuition plays a huge role in my life. And I can get specific on that. In fact, I think I will. That I was born to a family whose my father, wanted to call me Seymour because he is an eye doctor, and he wanted me to take over the business, his to-be son, so he named me Seymour. And my last name is Koblin, and I was born on Halloween, which is kind of pun with the word goblin. And so there's something, very abstract, for sure, about my coming into the world from day one. And that's when it all started, for sure.
Started at birth.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. Very cool. So where has your intuition guided you throughout your life, and how has it developed?
Well, what's coming to mind right now is I remember going to school and hearing a lot of messages, both from my parents and from teachers, that somehow rung as being other than authentic. And I think one of the overall themes through my life that I remember is that I've typically done the opposite of the norm, and somehow I knew from inside that there's something else I'm supposed to listen to besides the stereotypical teachings that were given through teachers and parents and all of that. And I think that came to a real big fruition when I was in the music field for many years, and still am to a small degree. But I was traveling around, and I had these pains in my gut, and I knew just from some studying that I had done that it was probably my appendix, and so I went to the hospital, and there was some stomach virus going around, and they didn't actually check me for appendicitis because there was just so much chaos going on, and they just said, just go home and you'll be okay. And my appendix burst that same night, and so I almost died, and I was in the hospital, and I was having a near-death experience, and I was really, really enjoying it. I mean, it was just incredible. I was just floating above the bed and looking at my body and saying, wow, this is so great to be without a body and just floating up here. And then all of a sudden I heard this voice from somewhere going, Seymour, what are you doing? Get back in your body. and and it also said, you got work to do. And I said, okay. And so I didn't know, like, intellectually how to get back into my body, but something told me that all I had to do was pull and pull and pull, and I guess I was constricting all my muscles. And then the next thing I knew, I woke up in the morning, and my mother was in front of me in a hospital bed, and she said, they called me and they said that you were dying in the middle of the night. And but I saw your grandmother, and she came to me, and she said that it's okay, he'll be all right, he's going to live. And here I am, and I got in the elevators, and I heard the doctor saying, what happened to the Koblin kid? Well, I don't know. He miraculously came back in the middle of the night. And so, that pretty much changed my life. From there, I started studying holistic health because I couldn't put my hands in in or my life in the hands of other people. I needed to find out what was going on for myself, and that started my whole path.
Hmm. Wow, I love that, Seymour, and it's funny. It reminds me of our weekly show that I was doing today, which is basically how to use your intuition to build a business, and it starts from your purpose, like a much higher
Yeah,
calling.
for
And
sure.
so having an experience, like, thank you for sharing, like, that's incredible. And I know a lot of people want to have that near-death experience, and I'm like, I don't know that you really should wish that on yourself, but
Yeah,
what everybody can do is get very tuned into what their purpose is,
for
right?
sure.
However they find it.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
as you're sharing your story, it's like, wow, like I could feel you floating above everything, and just seeing the truth, and then hearing, you have work to do, is like, that's your purpose, right? And
Yeah,
that
for sure.
what your intuition knows, and that's why it's so important to follow it.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I would love for you to share, more about how you've been able to tune into what's true for you instead of listening to the good opinion of others, because that's always a challenge when we go boldly into our purpose, is that we really
Right.
know who we are at our core and commit to that.
Yeah, let me add something. Another interesting piece about intuition that I realized just last week is that that intuitive space where we get information or signals or messages, whatever it is, that moves us towards the evolution of our soul, that somehow there's a vulnerability in there. And I think to surrender to that vulnerability and let those messages come through is a really, really big piece. People have to be willing to be kind of raw
Mm-hmm.
and really, really like, I don't know what's going to happen here,
Mm-hmm.
for intuition to come in.
Yeah.
It really is a vulnerable space, and I think that's why so many people get interference, because we're afraid to go to that vulnerable spot of the unknown. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's our biggest fear of the unknown, and so it's a very vulnerable place.
Absolutely.
So once we get more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with that uncomfortableness,
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden information, it's not even information, it's just a journey begins.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't
Yeah.
know if I helped to answer your question, but I just added a piece to it.
Yeah,
And
no, I agree with you. Very much so. And it also feels like, for me, there's almost a sense of letting go of control. Like, you don't always
yeah.
know. So to be comfortable with that.
Yeah, and I've also found another interesting discovery is that a lot of times intuition, when we trust it and we're really in it, makes life a lot easier,
Yeah.
and not necessarily.
Mm.
Because of that vulnerable space, we're attracting situations that are perfect and sometimes other than easy.
Mm.
So like I know that from my own particular, and I guess that it's probably with a lot of people, there's a bridge between the intellect and the physical and the intuitive, and that's the emotional plane. And so to me, sometimes getting intuitive information, which is supposed to move us forward in our dreams and in our life purpose, sometimes makes the emotional part of it even more challenging than ever, because we're guessing about something, we're just going with the flow, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves in a deeper place than we've ever been emotionally. And so as long as we remember to keep on using our intuition, we get through it.
Mm-hmm.
And the tendency is to, uh-oh, why, where, when, how do I control this? And then that's when all the problems
Mm-hmm.
happen. So once again, there's that doorway to vulnerability that could become even more vulnerable when we use our intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it just, I don't know, it just gets deeper and deeper. It's kind of a neat, but that's the whole rabbit hole thing, right? Where it's you just keep on going, and who knows what's next, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate the authenticity and the realness of that, because I do think at an unconscious level that is why we block intuition, is we're scared of feeling that much or knowing the truth.
Right.
And even though emotion, in my experience, is the bridge to get to your intuition, it's actually different. Emotions and your intuition are different.
Oh yeah,
Emotions are feelings, and intuition's a knowing, right? Like, it's
sure,
a certainty.
for sure.
So to navigate your way through it, that's really the key, is
Yeah.
to go down that
Yeah,
river.
for me, intuition is like the boat, and the
Mhm.
emotions are the tides and the water all around it. And
Mhm.
somehow if we just stay on that boat, we'll get through it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Very cool. That's awesome. So, Seymour, as you have been following your intuition, how have you been able to increase your income in your life?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thought to peruse. Uh, there's been times in my life where following my intuition made incredible prosperity, and there's been times in my life where following intuition has given me more challenges financially than I've ever had before. So I've seen like a front and a back, like two sides of the coin to
Mm-hmm.
that, and that for me, I've realized is goes back to the emotional piece again. When I'm supposed to be growing emotionally, that sometimes shows up in the financial plane. And that it could just be me, but I have a feeling it's probably for many other people too,
Mm-hmm.
that when I'm following my intuition and finances are going other than easy or better, that's another intuitive signal for me to know, okay, relationships, what's going on here? Something needs to change in my relationships for those two pieces to connect and be on that smooth wave again.
Hmm. Huh. That's fascinating. Like that
Yeah.
you, and I agree with you. I can feel that. Do you want to go deeper into that? Like why you would know to turn to relationships if the prosperity wasn't coming in?
Basically, it came out of experience at the School of Healing Arts just after the school started in 1989. Right? So we've been around a long time, and I just simply noticed, pure observation, that when everybody was feeling great together and there was a great cohesion and connection in our emotional bonds with each other, we were so prosperous. And in times where even one new person in the boat was rocking it,
Mm-hmm.
then finances tended to be more tenuous, and so I would just like see it, and it's just proven so accurate that it's that. First of all, the school is very much into the whole community. I mean, that's like our dharma, so to speak, is like creating community, right? So it would make sense that in an environment like that, that we're going to have relationships, ups and downs that affect prosperity because that's our work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a great thing to have. So when the money's going down, I don't worry about it. Like it's just the way that wave is. And knowing what I know about money is, I mean, most of it is an imaginary amount anyway. Nobody really has any money. America doesn't have any money. Nobody has any money, right? So just being aware of that concrete detail makes the whole thing just part of the ride. Because
Not
it
take it
really
quite
is. Because
seriously.
money is really an imaginary amount. Nobody has any money. But that's a whole other thing. So it's just more on how we use the wave of that value system. It's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily money in the bank or any of that. It's just getting our needs met with however the system is moving.
Mm-hmm. I think it's taking it deeper, like really feeling it in our core that regardless of how much money you have in your bank account at the moment or whatever's going on in your business, that you know you're supported and that you're moving with purpose. And that
Right.
that is really the greatest prosperity because you use the word dharma, you can use whatever word you want, but it's your contribution to the planet.
Right. For
Whether
sure.
you woke up in the middle of the night or woke up
Yeah.
one day and knew it, you know
Yeah.
what your path is, right?
Right. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a certain security I find when I drop into my core that regardless of the external, there's a knowing. It's like the current of the river. So,
Right.
I love that you look at all aspects of it and address, oh, is it relationships? Where in my life do I need to grow? If I'm getting
Right.
feedback, what's the growth spurt for me? And how can I hold myself in love through that and stay in that boat, stay in that intuition boat?
Yeah, for sure. And another part of this is the physical. So intuition is the conducting of electricity and charges through the body and without any constraints, just absolute knowing And so the only way that that can happen is physically, if there's the less stagnation there is in the body, the more freedom and clarity of these charges to flow, then the easier it is for wisdom to come in and also last. Because a lot of people have been intuitive, but because the body couldn't handle that energy, a lot of those people have gotten physical diseases that held them back. So there's a physical component too that's really, really important. It's really, really important to exercise, to breathe, to do all that in order to conduct the intuitive charge through the body without it burning us out, because it's a huge amount of energy and it's got to be able to flow without stagnation. Otherwise, there can be problems.
Wow, that makes so much sense. I just got back from a run before this show, and
Yeah.
I find every day I'm running. Like Mark, my producer, knows, like, I am always moving. And if
Yeah.
I don't, I feel really bad. And
Yeah.
so I'd love for you to explain how that neurochemical works, because that's like been my experience my whole life, even being an athlete. I had to move, and I'm extremely intuitive. But if I don't move, I really do not feel good. So can you explain how that neurochemical thing works so people see the benefit of moving and trusting where they're being moved to? It's like your gut, your heart will move you if you allow it, but if you stop it, then you're getting the stagnation.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of different ways to look at that. The easiest way is probably just circulation. So when we're stagnant, when we're stuck, if we stay in one position for too long, unless it's meditation where the internal energy is moving, but just staying in one stagnant place, the chi just stops. We're moving creatures. We've actually got to move. So that's where exercise is really, really important, and circulation of blood, and the blood follows the energy. All of that has to keep flowing for intuition to keep flowing, and for health to keep flowing. Another side to it is a little bit maybe more technical with the actual body condition. For the longest time, biology showed us or told us that genetics were the leading component of human behavior, and now that's completely been outruled. And although it's going to take another 10 or 5 years or so to get in the actual books, but now it's been shown to us that the nucleus, where all the genetic material, is not the brain of the cell. The nucleus has been taken out of cells, and the cells keep on functioning. They do whatever they're supposed to do. If they're muscle cells, they keep on contracting. If they're heart cells, they keep on pumping, whatever they are. So geneticists said, wait a minute, how did this happen? We always thought that the genes controlled everything and the nucleus, but they don't. It's actually the cell membrane. The cell membrane controls whatever the cell needs to do. And the nucleus is more responsible for reproduction, making more cells and making more of what we need. But the actual conduction of information is through the cell membrane. Just like in the body, that is a big version of a cell, our skin has receptors. We have ears, we have eyes, we have noses. Our 5 senses are what dictate our behavior. So when you're running, you're stimulating all of these senses, and you're giving information to your body on how to behave. And the brain is just secondary, and genetics is all secondary. So that's why being active is really, really important, because we're stimulating all of this external brain that is the very first stimulus that controls everything that we do.
That is so fascinating, because a theme that's been running with all these experts, not all, but a lot of them, is to be physical. That, one of the ways you're going to get intuitive is get in your body, like move your body. So
it's the yin and the yang.
What's that?
It's the yin and the yang. You've got to have both. You can't just be spiritual and intuitive. To balance that, we've got to be physical. And the better our physical condition, the better our intuition.
Well, just the way you're describing the cell membrane, if our body, our body contains our spirit, and we're moving it, we're moving our feet, our arms, our skin, breathing, that's opening the space for that life force energy to flow, which makes perfect sense. That's probably why I teach the chakra system, is you're flowing,
That's right. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Wow, I love that you know so much about the science behind it, because I think that's really good for people to understand that, it's not just out there. It's not that I just feel something, that it actually is confirmed by science. And I love that there's people out there researching it. And, another thing that's been coming up is, the gut actually is more intelligent than the brain,
Right.
So it's like if we really drop our awareness into our core. And when I was running on the cliff today, it's like I felt my energy come straight into my core, because I had just, taught the weekly class on going to your core, and I was like, wow, when we connect to that light within us, our gut feeling, our intuition, like that source moving through us, and it will blow your mind. Like, you're not going to be able to control it, but that's the deepest level of intelligence. And if you trust it and move with it, you will absolutely be on path. And I'd like to say you'll get what you want. I guess I can't say that, because everybody has their own path. At the same time, you're just going to be connected. You're going to be connected to all that is. And what more do we really want? We all want connection. We all
Yeah.
want the
Yeah.
relationships with each other and our
Yeah.
business and money. Like, connection's at our core. We can't be separated from each other. So what I guess I can promise you is you'll be more connected,
Yeah,
and
for
into
sure.
that light and that love that we are.
And one thing I'd like to add to, as well as being more connected to whatever's going on in our own and other people's lives, is that we'll also be more creative. This is a
Mm-hmm.
huge piece
Mm-hmm.
in life and health and longevity, is that ability to continually create new, continually grow. And why people stagnate, let's just use intuition as an example, is that for some reason there's some sort of contraction about the new, about what am I going to create, what's out there, what's going to be new for me. And so if there's any fear and doubts around that, then that'll constrict the whole circulation. So creativity is a really, really important piece of any aspect of life, including intuition,
Mm-hmm.
to
So,
create new.
yeah, and you're so right about that. And I guess I'm curious, what would you tell people to do if they're feeling the fear of constricted? Like, they know that something's coming and it's unknown, and their intuition's guiding them, but they're blocking themselves off, or they're constricted, or a little bit afraid, or resistant, or hesitant. What would
Right.
you tell them to do?
Okay, well, what keeps us behind is the story.
Yeah,
So there's some sort of story that's going on in our head, some sort of,
yeah,
well, I did this, blah, 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 I did that
yeah.
once, and da, 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 I never want that to happen again. So any kind of tool at all to stop the story and just be in the physical sensations of the body
Yeah.
without any conclusion, without any projection, is just to be in our bodies and feel what's going on in these membranes,
Mm-hmm.
and just to notice them and stop the brain,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and let the wisdom come through.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And that's what exercise does, right? Exercise puts us in our body.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it does. We get out of our brain, we get out of all this thinking, all these endorphins are going, and we're just feeling our blood vessels, we're feeling our skin. And that's the first level of the brain.
Yeah.
That's where all the stimulus comes. And
Wow.
so then the information just happens automatically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's creative.
Yeah. Yeah. You get the insights, or I call them downloads, and then take action.
Yeah, downloads you for sure. And the word genius comes to mind, which comes from Genesis. So genius is that part of us that makes new, that makes the world new in each moment.
Wow.
And that's the guide.
It's amazing. That's so awesome, Seymour. I'm loving this. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. So I'm feeling guided to ask you about your music. How has music played a role in your life in conjunction with intuition?
Yeah.
Because I've interviewed people, and I probably will interview a couple more, hopefully, if it works out, about this. So there's a dance that happens with music and creativity and intuition. Talk about
Yeah.
downloads, right?
Well, yeah. So all the senses are keys in the door to movement and change. So we use our five senses, and hearing, yeah, hearing is the musical, and everybody gets moved by the
Mm-hmm.
vibrations of music. It really is the universal language. It's not the words that we hear, It's the sounds that we hear, and our body is either moved or not
Mm-hmm.
by it.
Mm-hmm.
So my first experiences, intuitive experiences in music, the really profound ones were, I remember I was playing in Toronto, and I was playing at a popular club there called the El Macombo, and it was kind of a showcase for our band. It was, and there was a point in the where I was taking a drum solo, and I just knew as I was taking this solo, I could almost feel the whole audience breathing with me. And so I was no longer playing what I might play if I was practicing or trying to impress somebody with my drum chops or whatever it was. I was actually breathing with the audience, and I had no idea what was going to come out next, except for one point where I said, I don't know what, all this stuff is coming out of me. I don't know where it is, but it feels good. I'm loving this. This is great. And then all of a sudden, I just stopped. And there was silence for, I don't know, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And I could feel that audience and me, like we were all just one organism. And that was just like a huge piece. And I think that, and I had that experience a number of different times, but that's one that comes to mind right now. That I've brought into my classes. So that's the experience I would love for all of us to be on when I'm doing an exercise in class, or you know that experience where you're running people through something, and everybody's in that same place, and if you just stop for a moment, you look around and everybody's smiling and everybody goes, yeah, we're there, we got it, right? so music was my first introduction to it, and everybody knows that music is an envelope or a medium for this. That's why we put on music when we meditate or when we're doing chakra exercises or something, because we know music sets up that universal language of connection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just feeling that energy of oneness, and it is. It actually reminds me. I went to this place called Quest Haven in
Yeah, I've
North.
been there. Yeah.
Beautiful, and they have this
Yeah.
beautiful church there actually. And this woman came and gave a talk, and she's actually in a wheelchair now because she got hit by a car, and she
Yeah.
did leave her body. And she was asked to share about her experience. And so she said once she went to the other side and saw the light, what she saw was music and colors. And
Uh,
she said, and thought. And she said, you have to understand your thought creates its vibration.
yeah.
So, there's such power in that. Like when you were talking, I was thinking about her that music it's the vibration, and color carries so much energy.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
our thoughts are creating, and she's like, once you leave your body, you create like that, and so it's just so unbelievable to me. Like it really blows my mind, but it's all here for us, right? So what can we use to be on that vibration of love or unity or whatever we want? What music do we need to support ourselves? What colors do we need? What people do we need? What do we need to move into that place of connection? To really ask ourselves that.
Yeah, for sure. It's really, really important. And again, that's where all the senses, I mean, smell is a lot more subtle and really, really important,
Mm.
right? So all of the senses are little keys to access intuition, and some people are more visual, right, when they're accessing intuition, and some people hear voices and all of that. Some people smell, right? Some people get a sense of touch.
Yeah.
They know, oh, there's that place in my body where I know I'm on my path, right? So these are important to develop.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and just honor what it is for you. I mean, when I first started, it was kinesthetic. It was like I feel it,
Yeah, me
and
too.
then it moved to auditory, so let it develop, and
Yeah.
unfold. Very cool. So, Seymour, as you have followed your intuition, and it sounds like you've made a lot of money at times, let's go with one of those times. How were you
Uh-huh.
able to give back more to the planet as you allowed yourself to receive that much more?
Can you be more specific? How did I give back in what way?
So when you were able to, so at times where you followed your intuition and the prosperity came in, did that help you to then give back? So typically, like, you know, when I have more money, then I'm able to give more money to other people. So I'm curious if you were able to give back, whether financially or with your time, or if you had a greater capacity to give back.
You know, it's funny that you're asking that question because the answer that seems to be coming through is that the whole time it's always been about giving back.
Mm, yeah.
That I actually see the two as being completely united, and I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could look at it in a way that if I'm not being prosperous or as much as I thought I could have or should have been at a certain point in my life, then I'm wondering if I'm giving enough to myself so I can give back enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because I
Mm-hmm.
can't just give back until I take care of myself first,
Mm-hmm.
because it's got to overflow. So for me, I can't say is they're ever really separate.
Mm-hmm.
The healthiest I've been it helps me to give back more, and then therefore that shows up with prosperity as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
So more
there's
like, go ahead.
and there's times when I've noticed that when I'm supposed to be giving to myself more,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not necessarily bringing in as much as I did in those years. But then once I give back to myself and I get to that place where I'm fulfilled, then I can start giving back again, and then more income starts
Mm-hmm.
coming again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I see it all as a continuum of myself developing, always with the the destination of giving as
Mm-hmm.
an equal part of giving to myself and to others as the same. I don't know, it's something like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounds like self-love equals more money. Like as you filled yourself
Yeah,
up, you have that much more to give. That for you, it's not necessarily about money; it's about giving back.
right.
But you know, when you're filling yourself up, whether it's taking care of yourself financially or health-wise or whatever you need to support you, that you have that much more to give back. Would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love that. I mean, that's my intention too, is to be able to serve, to give, you know, to give what you can. And I have noticed, you know, at times in my life where I'm totally full, I do have more to give,
Yeah,
and you can't give what you don't have, you know. So it's
right,
it's
for
like the
sure.
whole your cup runneth over, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
very cool. So is there any other things you'd like to add? Anything of value in relation to you, your business, the school, intuition that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, what's coming to mind is simply to develop the self enough to be brave enough to find that vulnerable place to use intuition, because it'll take us wherever we are supposed to be, and wherever we're supposed to be is a good place. And that's it.
Yeah, I love that. Wherever we're supposed to be is a good place. Let your
Yeah,
intuition take you there.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Wow. Very cool. Well, is there a free gift that you'd like to share with people so they can get to know you more? I mean, Seymour is so incredible. As you can tell, he travels all over, and the School of Healing Arts is actually where I started my company, in that same building, and I'm a teacher there now and have my certification program developing. So it's incredible. Like, we would love to get to know you better, Seymour. So how can they contact you?
Well, through my email,
Okay.
Seymour@sohearts.com, and going to be giving people a choice of one of three books that I have, and it'll be a download of one of my three books. One is on chi cultivation, chi exercises. Another is on food, and I'm actually wondering about the third one because I have a lot of books, but it'll be those two for sure, and one other one.
Oh, cool. Yay.
Yeah.
You have choices.
Yeah, so people can just tell me what they're into, and I'll intuitively select a book that would work for them.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
Seymour at sohearts.com, and we'll have that link available for you as well. And then, is there anything you want to leave our listeners with, Seymour?
Just thanks to you, Abby.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great to see you and be with you in this wonderful field, and I'm really appreciative and amazed at how you got all this together. With the TV and and the promotion. So thumbs up. It's great.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so
I
much.
I honestly accredit that to my team. Mark Burns and Cy Pilkington have been amazing,
They're
and
great.
the experts that have come in and the audience that is coming in. It's intuition, and it is where I'm supposed to be and where you're supposed to be and where we're all coming together in this universal language of love. So thank you.
Right on. Okay, thanks.
All right, namaste, everyone. Big love.
Namaste. Bye.
Bye.